Today, we're going to be talking about how we support agile business planning with streamlined ITSM reporting. So in today's webinar, it's going to be a combination of the slide deck that we're in today. Then we're actually going to step into the VividCharts platform, which lives directly in ServiceNow, and start to show you some of these concepts in the product itself. So to get started, this is generally the flow that we're going to go through today. The goal is to automate your most vital ITSM reports. So we'll start by sharing a little bit about VividCharts, who we are and what we're all about. We're going to step through some of the alternative solutions to ITSM reporting outside of VividCharts that we hear about in the field, and some of the common challenges that we hear ServiceNow customers sharing about those alternatives. And then the last piece, we're going to actually step live into the VividCharts product, and we're going to step you through three very distinct different types of ITSM reports and talk through some of the automation scenarios that we work through with customers around these operational reports. So this is the general flow that we're going to step through today. Just to kind of set the stage and give a little bit of background on VividCharts. My name's Rob Walsh, one of the founders here at VividCharts. So I help customers every single day evaluate our platform for automation capabilities and how we can automate operational reports. So we're going to spend a lot of time on ITSM today, but you'll see we are an elite technology partner that provides report automation across the ServiceNow platform with SPM and managed service providers as well. VividCharts product, we call it the data engagement platform. And what you're going to hear a common theme of throughout the presentation today is how we can find manual time suck reports and provide automation on those operational reports using our platform directly in ServiceNow so the data is live. So some of the key features and benefits you're going to see showcased throughout today's slide deck, as well as the demonstration in the product, are how we can actually use report automation to accelerate ServiceNow user adoption and improve the overall experience of end users on the platform. We're going to show a demonstration of the user-friendly slide editor UI and how we can use that to build automated reports. We're going to step through some of the visuals in our flexible chart library, and we'll also touch on how that's growing over time as we work with customers more and more. We're going to touch on how the unlimited sharing capabilities VividCharts provides to business users, not just fulfillers in ServiceNow, but non-fulfillers as well, and the advantage that provides. And just through the demonstration, you're going to see how quick and easy it is to actually get these reports stood up through the product demonstration itself. If we just pull the lens back, we gave a little bit of background on VividCharts as a company, but if we just had to get really hyper-specific on the problem that we're solving for ServiceNow customers that we're going to view through the ITSM lens today, it's this: 97% of ServiceNow customers are pulling data out of the platform to create the meaningful business reports that they need. And what this ultimately translates to, more often than not, there are some other alternatives that we'll talk through today, but more often than not, the data is ending up in places like Excel, like PowerPoint, where it's a heavily manual process that simply doesn't scale. So what you're going to see in the product today is a no-code experience that lives directly in your ServiceNow instance and allows you to take those manual reports that don't scale today and automate them so you get the scale and benefits along the way. So you're going to see this as a consistent theme throughout today's presentation. Now, we'll start with a little bit of a video here and just, again, kind of hammering home that concept. The death of PowerPoint tagline is kind of cheeky. It's kind of fun. Look, we're not replacing PowerPoint in any organizations, but as you just kind of watch this video in the VividCharts editor, you'll see that our product is actually very inspired by the editing experience in a Microsoft PowerPoint. That's what users are comfortable with, the low-code, drag and drop ability to design meaningful business reports. So what you're going to see in the VividCharts editor is actually inspired a lot by PowerPoint, but what we add to the equation is a real-time data chart library, and the ability to get to the data because we live directly in ServiceNow. So those things combined give us the ability to really automate these operational business reports. So you're going to see more of this throughout the presentation today. Now, this was touched on in the earlier slide. VividCharts is not a platform that focuses exclusively on ITSM. However, that is where we're going to focus today. So we have suites of apps that are all focused around operational report automation across the platform, SPM, managed service providers. But today we're going to focus on the ITSM app suite, which includes operational reports for pre-CAB, post-CAB, executive ITSM reviews that we can automate, incident trending reports that we can automate, and then reviews over really high impact items that need a lot of scrutiny, like a major incident or a problem review that takes place at the executive level. So you're going to see a lot of this in the product today, but also good to call out that there are solutions across the ServiceNow platform outside of ITSM. All right, so let's start to talk a little bit more in detail about the problem and the pain that we hear around ITSM manual reporting. And this visual really, going back to the last slide, applies across any operational reporting across the ServiceNow platform, where on the right side of the spectrum here, you have where all the data is actually getting generated and updated. It's the resources performing tasks, submitting incidents, updating data on incidents. All of the data is getting generated on this side of the spectrum here, but it's a really high volume of data. And especially as you expand on the ServiceNow platform, you drive larger and larger implementations and adoptions in your organizations, the volume of data grows with it. And as you continue along this spectrum, when you try to get that data distilled down in a format that executive decision makers can actually interpret and draw business decisions out of, you hit a lot of pain points along the way. And again, it goes back to how much are we having to export data from the platform to get the reports that we need. Some of the things we hear about are the duplication of effort, swivel chairing with data entry across multiple channels, exporting data out of ServiceNow to either manipulate the data in Microsoft Excel, which again doesn't scale, but even then, sometimes you just need to screenshot that output and then put it in a PowerPoint slide deck so that you can tell a story with the data. And because of the manual, non-scalable aspects of that process, executives are having to receive inconsistent formats from different teams internally. So they're trying to do strategic planning, performance evaluations, but they're getting inconsistent formats and reports that are stale. They're not actually connected to the data far too often. So when we think about the report types that you're going to see in VividCharts today, we're really focused on how do we take these pain points along the way, alleviate them with an in-platform solution that truly allows you to automate your operational business reporting. So keep in mind these pain points in this spectrum from where the data is getting generated and how it has to get summarized up to leaderships to draw really clear conclusions from. Now, if we take a second to just spend some time on the impact, right? We're going to show you the types of reports we can automate in the VividCharts platform today. But if there's not an impact, is it really even worth doing? And it's actually pretty staggering the impact that you can have, especially in a large enterprise. So this is a slide that, again, applies across the use cases of VividCharts in other areas of the platform. But in ITSM, you have large organizations with many different layers of management that are all producing reports manually. So if you start to scale that up, and if you just look at, if you're doing 50 manual reports on a weekly basis, only an hour a piece, this is what it translates to on an annual basis, 2,600 resource hours, right? Let that sink in, $260,000 worth of resource wasted on reporting methods that just don't scale. So what we're trying to facilitate is agile business planning, connect the reports with the live data, and do it in the ServiceNow platform. So you can actually scale your IT operations and ultimately deliver more value out of the investment you've made in ServiceNow. So again, as we look at the different report types, just think about in your own organizations, what are the manual reports that are taking place today? And what is that translating to in terms of resource hours and overall resource spend? Now, before we step into the VividCharts approach to operational business reporting, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the alternatives we hear from customers and some of the challenges they associate with them and have experienced with them. So on the left-hand side of the screen, every single VividCharts customer has a Power BI or a Tableau or some sort of BI capability in-house. Now, this is a very important functional part of the enterprise, but when you look at ITSM reporting, most of the data actually just lives in ServiceNow. And when you have to take the data out, outsource the reporting to a separate team of resources that has to actually recreate the data structures that are already there in ServiceNow, that's where you start to see reporting cycles to get reports built take quite a bit of time, as well as when you need to iterate on the existing reports, it takes a lot of time to turn those around. Makes you ask the question, isn't that what ServiceNow is supposed to provide your organization? It has the single data model. But if you can't get the reporting out of it, are you really taking advantage of that? Or are you surrendering that value? So you'll hear this kind of reference throughout the presentation, and we'll show you today how we can make the most of the data in ServiceNow without having to pull it out. The middle one is by far the most prevalent and also where you get the most scale for your investment in a VividCharts. Excel and PowerPoint, the most manual, the least scalable, and it leads to a wide variance in the reports that are actually getting interpreted. So not only do you have the wasted time and effort to actually achieve the reporting results, it also slows down decision-making, because if it takes a certain amount of time to produce, you're only going to get that report and that insight once a month, once a quarter, because of the manual effort it takes. So when you take that out and have a scalable solution, you have the data in real time whenever you need to. So high scale, high value when you can take a manual report and provide it in real time. And then lastly, custom coded in-platform dashboards. This is an expensive option as well, but for a slightly different reason. If you have a specific type of report that is a little bit more complex, sometimes there is an option to custom code it in the platform, but that takes a very specialized resource, which is very expensive and difficult to support. So, what we try and provide in the VividCharts product are out-of-the-box ways to achieve these operational reporting use cases without having to engage technical talent. So you'll see that's why our product is inspired by tools like PowerPoint and Excel, because they're user-friendly and users are used to building in them. So again, as we're looking through the different report types in VividCharts, think back to these throughout the demonstration and think about your own organization internally. Where are you seeing these manifest? What process areas are you seeing these manifest? And could we explore a more automated, more scalable version of that in VividCharts? One of the questions we get all the time that we just had to cover before we get into the product demonstration is, how does this interact with, ITSM Pro, the analytics capabilities of ServiceNow? And, VividCharts, a huge part of our value is that we live directly in a customer ServiceNow instance. So we're extremely complementary to the Pro capabilities in the ITSM Pro suite. So on the VividCharts side, what you want to think about is how do we automate the ultimate end report so we can provide that full efficiency? How do we visualize the data better for more insights and more transparency? And how do we do all of that while still providing it in a nice branded aesthetic that is executive quality, right? Sometimes you go to PowerPoint to really get that executive polish. What if we could provide that in the ServiceNow platform with the VividCharts while still having real-time data to back it up? All of the pro capabilities within ServiceNow suite, modernizing the ITSM experience, the data generated with the automation and the AI and the chatbots, all of the advanced analytics and KPIs and trend insights. Can we harness that in automated reporting outputs with VividCharts that help you get more value out of the ITSM Pro capabilities? The answer is yes, and you'll see some of the formats and ultimate report outputs today in the demonstration that showcase this. We're about to step into the product demonstration portion of the webinar, but before we do, let's just kind of pull up a slide here and talk about some of the organizations that we work with and why they see us as a good partner. It's all of the themes that you're already hearing in the demonstration, and every single customer on the slide here has a set of manual reports that they can point back to before they started working with the VividCharts, and they can now say it's automated that process for them, delivered resource hours back, and provided better real-time decision-making data for their executives. So a lot of inspiration from the logos on the screen here that you're going to see in the product demonstration. So with that, let's actually start to dig in. So I'm going to exit out of the slide deck here and actually jump into the VividCharts product. So the first thing I'm going to call out now that we're in the VividCharts UI here is that you can see we are in a VividCharts ServiceNow instance here, but we take over the full UI of the screen because we're providing a lot of ability to not just build reports, but organize your reports and your views into data. So you're seeing a number of folders on the screen that we call collections. Collections are just how you can organize the automated business reports that you build with VividCharts. So the three reports that we're going to actually step through in the demonstration portion of the webinar, the first is the most common. It's a typical dashboard style report that you maybe want to add some filters to allow end users or executives to slice and dice the data. So we're going to start there. Where we're going to go after that is taking that same concept with the real-time data, but applying it to the slide deck use case where you have to actually tell a story with what's going on with the data. So we're going to review an ITSM executive review slide deck. And then the last report type that we're going to cover is when we had to take a look at a very high impact item, like a major incident or a problem, and produce a summarized version of that so that you can review and analyze as an organization. So let's start with the first report type, that dashboard style view. And VividCharts has a lot of effort put into how we can automate and provide more scale. So we're actually going to start with one of the templates here. And if I open up the templates menu, you'll see we have a bunch of templates added in here that we use for different demonstrations that we're doing. But for the webinar today, we're going to choose the VividCharts Service Desk Monitor. And if I pull this up and just click copy to the editor, now, once we've deployed our template, we're now in the VividCharts editor that you saw a short video, sped up video of in the slide deck earlier. So just a couple of basics to call out. Everything that you're seeing in here is fully drag and drop, just like it is in PowerPoint. The ability to modify the size of an individual element, where it's placed in the editor, is very similar and inspired by tools like PowerPoint and Canva because they're so easy to use. So whether it's a chart type that you're seeing on this view or text that you're going to see, freeform text that you're going to see in some of the other examples today, everything is fully configurable both from a data perspective as well as a styling and layout perspective. So you can just see here on this chart, the score is actually colored red. So every single chart in the library is going to have its own set of styles that we can apply, where we can modify what the title itself says or different elements of the chart, like, color the score red if it meets a certain criteria. So within the editor, full configurability from a style perspective, which we're seeing here in the style menu, but also from a data perspective, where if we open up the data menu for a specific chart, you can see the table that we're pulling from, the incident table in this case, as well as the chart options and conditions that we have applied. So you can see we're looking at only P1 incidents created today, and we're showing a distinct account of those. So each chart is going to have its own set of options to apply to tell the story with the data that you want. And you're seeing a number of pre-configured charts here because we're working off of a template. But just so you all know, I'll pop open our charts menu here and just scroll through, and you can see the vast library of data visualizations that we provide our customers. So as we scroll through, you're going to see some of the more typical visualizations, time series visuals to show trends, but you'll also see there are some process area specific charts that we have in the library as well. For ITSM, you'll see we have two different flow maps that show changes as they're working their way through the change management process. So all of these visuals are built in-house, so we can continue to add process-specific visuals for processes like change, but also more traditional chart types that you would find in any reporting solution. So what are some of the things we might want to do to a view like this to make it a little bit more useful for end users? Well, one of the common asks is we want to actually add some filters. So we covered a little bit about some of the charts that are out here, what it takes to actually add new charts to the editor. But let's go ahead and add a filter or two just so you can see what that workflow is like as well. So if I open up our filter menu here, and the first thing we'll do is just click Add Filter. And maybe we want to filter by assignment group. So we'll just give it a name, and then we decide if we want it to be a static or dynamic filter. So for this example, we'll just choose the dynamic option. Now, once we've done that, we get to pick one of a few different options within the VividCharts data engagement platform for dynamic filter. And we have a drop-down option, a custom drop-down, a text search, and a date range option. So we'll build a couple of these, but let's start with the drop-down. Now, you'll see this concept come out in the next report example, but with VividCharts, we have the ability to not just build single slide views like we're looking at here, but also full-blown automated slide decks. So you can not only just filter a specific slide, but you can also apply a filter to an entire slide deck. So for this, since we're on a single slide view, let's just apply to a single slide. And for this view in particular, all of the charts are looking at incident data, so we'll keep that as our selection here. Now, again, since we're looking at almost entirely the incident table here, we'll choose that as our table, and then it's going to allow me to pick a field. So we're going to name this assignment group, so we want to zero in on the assignment group field. We'll say we want to go ascending, and we do want to allow our end users to select multiple selections. And if I just click Save, that's going to now be available in the viewer for our end customers. So now in our filter menu, you'll see we have our assignment group filter where I could go back in and edit it, or I could add another filter. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's say we want to add a date range filter for created on. And to do that, we'll just select our date range filter type, apply it to the slide. And again, we're going to look at the incident table and then the field. So we want to look at created. So we'll choose created, and that's going to allow us to filter by that create date. So once we've added our filters or added additional chart types, we would just save our view. We would then publish our view to publish the recent updates that we made. So we'll click publish. What we were just in is what we call the VividCharts editor. This is the viewer, which is its own unique URL that you can publish out to end users to interact with on their own. So you saw we added a couple of filters. If we pop open our filter menu here, this is where end users can actually interact with the filters that you've provided them. So let's just say we want to, select a few assignment groups here. We just click run, and it's going to update all of the charts in our view here with those filter conditions. Just like with the dynamic dropdown, with our date range filter, we can look at certain slices by time. So if we wanted to just look at, the last 3 months, for example, we could apply that on top of it as well. And so all of the data is going to update in real time for our end users in this scenario. And providing filters out allows our end users to interact and slice the data so they can draw their own conclusions and business decisions off of it. Now, the viewer experience I mentioned is its own unique URL here. So just so you know, I'll open the sharing menu here. We can share this specific URL only with specific users, groups, or roles. But in VividCharts, we also have the ability to share views with all logged in users, which differentiates with end users who can maybe submit incidents, don't have a fulfiller role in ServiceNow, but maybe are still interested in some of the data. So if we toggle this, this would allow an end user, even if they don't have a fulfiller role, to access a view like this. And again, it's just a unique URL. So you can share the URLs in many different forms or fashions. The collections, like we saw on the home menu, are really nice for end users to organize the content that's been shared with them. But we also see end users sharing URLs out in different ways, Teams channels, related links in their ServiceNow instance, etc. So a lot of options from a sharing perspective. So this gives you a little bit of a view into that dashboard style view, what it can look like with some of the visuals in the VividCharts chart library, what it's like to not just add a set of filters to a view, but also for an end user to interact with the filters that we've added. So what we're going to do next is step into that second report type, which is going to be a real-time operational slide deck, but is fully automated via the platform that we've been seeing so far. So I'm going to open up this in our next tab here, and you'll see we're back in the VividCharts editor, but we're starting to see a view that looks a lot more like a PowerPoint slide deck than an operational dashboard. So just like you saw in the previous example, we have elements on here that are real-time data charts that, again, we can resize, drag, drop, place wherever we need them on a slide. But if we're going to tell a story about what's happening from an operational perspective, we also might need to add some text within it. So if I just select this is text that we've added with our freeform text editor. So we have the ability to add this net new using our text editor here, or we have the ability to actually go in and update this as well. So you can see if I highlight this, you can see we've got this changed to the color white, so it accents nicely with the VividCharts blue. But we can update this completely. We can do bullet points, numbered lists. We can hyperlink out of here. So a lot of ability to tell stories with your data using our text editor, as well as things like our shapes menu. So if you wanted to, say, call out a specific point on the deck, you could add a shape that kind of calls that out, and then add some text that provides a little bit more context to your executives around what's going on there. So a lot of storytelling capability when you start to take the real-time reporting concept, but also pair it with the storytelling ability of a slide deck. So we do have a few slides already populated on here, so I'm just going to kind of page through these so you all have a chance to see. Slide 1 here. Slide 2 is looking at a slightly different slice of the data, major incidents to failed changes. And you're seeing each of these charts has its own set of conditions applied, groupings applied, so you can really tell a story about what's going on within the relationship of major incidents and failed changes. So this is our second slide. Here's our third slide that's just using our list visual to list out all of the major incidents specifically. And then the last slide is just a recap, right? So how many failed/unauthorized changes last week? How many major incidents? So with the view like this, what we see a lot of times with customers is they're tasked with providing at the end of each week, at the end of each month, or at the end of each quarter, provide our executive team a recap of these really high impact items. So with a capability like this, you can get that report out of PowerPoint, have it fully automated with both the text context and the data with our real-time data charts. And once we've done that, we could actually go into the viewer experience, just like we were seeing with the prior more dashboard style view, and actually present the data in real time out of ServiceNow if you want to. So we can present this slide deck in a zoomed out format like this. We can present out of full screen mode, just like we can in PowerPoint. That's a user expectation that we can deliver. And once the presentation's done, or if you just need to share it out, anything built in VividCharts, we can download to PDF or PowerPoint with a click. So this entire, this is a 4-slide example. You could have a 20-slide review that you have at your fingertips to download with a click. So really powerful automation capabilities here. This topic in ITSM is very, very common in our customer base. So major incidents to failed changes, but we also see this style of report being used for service desk reviews for specific assignment groups, or the service desk as a whole. So while we're looking at major incident and failed change data here, this concept is applicable across ITSM. So that takes us through our first 2 report styles: the dashboard style review, or the dashboard style view, the slide deck, fully automated slide deck review. Now let's step into the last style of report we're going to look at, and that is a single record summary of a very high impact item like a problem, a major incident, a failed change, and how we can produce a standardized report for all of the problems in the system, all of the major incidents in the system. So again, just like a view or a slide deck like this, we find it very common for the organizations we're working with to have to provide executives a readout on a monthly basis or quarterly basis of all of the major incidents or the problems that occurred in that period. So with the VividCharts platform, what we can do is use the editor, which we spent a good amount of time in, to actually standardize what are the data points that are important in a report out like this. But we also have additional automation capability where once we've standardized this, we can produce it at scale for all of the records in the system and provide us the ability to bundle them together, share them out, export as a PowerPoint with ease. So in the editor here, we've seen a good amount of the capabilities, so we won't go into detail on all of these chart types, but the main takeaways of a slide like this is, each of these data points is a chart type that's built specifically to look at a certain record and a field on that record, so the additional comments field on a given problem record. Down here, we have a list chart that is looking at a related list to the problem record. So any data points that are relevant for your problem analysis process, if it relates back to the record, we can include it on our standardized template here. So all of the charts on the screen here are either pulling data from the problem record itself or one of the related lists on the problem record, the related incidents, for example, in this chart type. So in the editor is where you standardize what does the report out actually look like. And with the additional automation capabilities in our platform we call summaries, we can take this standard, save it as a template, and then produce it at scale, which I'm going to switch over to our next tab to demonstrate here, where we can essentially say, take that standardized template and produce it for all the problems in the system. that fit the conditions I have applied. So this page is the end result of that. But just so you can see how this works, you can see I have the problem process selected. You'll also notice across ITSM, we also have this for change requests, CAB meeting records, major incidents, as well as other record types across the ServiceNow platform and SPM and other areas. So for this, we're leveraging the problem process area. You'll see I have our template selected here that we were just looking at in the editor, but you'll also see we have the ability to actually have multiple templates. So it's not uncommon in ITSM to have a template for a change request leading up to the CAB. So you can show your end users what approvals are outstanding, what tasks are remaining. But then you could also have a template for your failed changes that are required to look at different data points so you can really analyze what went wrong. So the ability to have multiple templates in here, the ability to choose a card style view that shows certain data points, the number, problem statement, priority, etc. But you can also choose different styles that maybe don't link to the record itself, just the VividCharts view, or maybe you prefer a list style visualization of the record data. So options there, and then the ability to pre-filter. So we're just displaying all of the problem records that are active in our system, but we have condition builder functionality here where you could condition this down by assignment group, team, etc. So you can pre-filter this. You also have the ability, just like in a standard view, to add filters to the view to let end users interact with as well. But once we've produced this page, if I just open up one of these, you'll see we have that standardized template, but it's only showing the data for that problem record specifically. So problem 13, this is all data that relates back to that problem. So just like with all of the other views that we saw today, we can present out of here, we can share the URL, we can download to PDF or PowerPoint with a click, or we could present out of full screen, just like with the other views. So this is a single problem record, but let's think about some of the workflows we talked about. So if we're expected as a problem team to report out on a monthly basis all of the problems from last month, we need the ability to bundle not just one record together, but multiple. So for that, we have our set functionality. So if I just say I want to bundle these three together for executive rollout, I'll click Create Set, and I'll name this problem review 3/28/23 and click Save. Now, once I've saved that set, you can see I only have those three problems displaying on the screen now, and I can take two different actions from this. I can open it up in the viewer, which is going to take us to that view experience, but it's going to be all three of these records in the same viewer. Or we can open it up in the editor, creating a view out of the set where if we wanted to add additional charts, additional visuals to tell a broader story, that's the action we could take. So just so you can see what this looks like, let's open up this set in the viewer. So it looks very familiar, but now from the viewer, I can page from one problem to the next problem to the next, present out a full screen, export to PowerPoint, whatever your workflow requires. So very, very powerful automation capability. Thinking back to the slide on resource time savings, think about your organizations. What types of roll-ups are being put together in these process areas for you today? What are the automation opportunities out there where you can take those, fully automate it, and deliver the end-to-end workflow of a review? What could that deliver back to your organization? So we saw open in the viewer. Let's open up our set again, and we'll just show you the creative view out of the set functionality. So just like when we open up in the viewer, you can see we have slide 1 here. We have slide 2, which is our second problem, and slide 3. And if we take this and play out the workflow, maybe we want to actually add an additional slide. Oh, got to move my Zoom window here. We could add an additional slide, and add some charts, some chart templates to tell a broader story with the data that we're working with. So once we're back in the editor, really we can do whatever we want. We've seen the capabilities, the whole demonstration. We have chart templates available. You can add your own chart templates. So again, it's all about what is the output that you eventually need to automate and what's the workflow to achieving it. All of these capabilities that you're seeing can be applied in very different ways in different organizations. So want to just show a lot of the capabilities and really dig in with anyone individually who wants to discuss their workflow specifically. Now, we're coming up on, close to 15 minutes to the top of the hour. We've covered our 3 different report types in the VividCharts platform here. We're seeing a few questions trickle in. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of jump back over into our slide deck view. We'll jump into the Q&A section. And as we do that, I'll just get my deck shared here. And a couple of things just to call out for everyone in the audience today. We actually have live real outputs that you can see yourselves without having to jump on a call with us in what we call our Vivid Hub. So we're going to send out a link that you can register. Don't have to book a call or anything. Go check out the finished product report outputs. A lot of what you saw today is posted there, so that'll be a resource we're sending out. Please feel free to book a meeting with us to discuss your company's workflow in these areas. Like I said, the platform capabilities are very broad, very powerful. And where it gets really exciting is when we start to dive into each organization, who's interested in their specific workflow, how we can automate in a way that fits their process. So definitely feel free to book a meeting with us and we'll go into detail on your organization. And then definitely want to call out that we are going to have a team out at Knowledge. Hopefully some of the folks on the webinar today will be out there as well. We'll be sending out communications on where to find us out there. So would love to meet anyone in person who's going to be attending that. And with that, let's actually click into some of the Q&A here. Yeah, one of the problems with using ServiceNow reports was using data across multiple table views. It seems to only give you the ability to one table view. How is your product addressing that? That's a great question and actually a very common question that we field. And we can tackle this in 2 different ways. So VividCharts, we mentioned throughout today, we've built our chart library entirely in-house. So that gives us a lot of flexibility in how we handle this. We have charts in our library that are purpose-built to actually pull data from multiple tables. So in our SPM suite, we have a number of list charts that will pull all of the ideas, demands, and projects within a given portfolio and display them in the same list view, right? So that's a common use case. So we added a chart to the library that just addresses that totally out of the box. So there's a number of charts in the library that just take those common multi-table examples and provide them out of the box. But for even more exotic use cases where maybe we need to go to many different tables, the use cases specific to us, we do have the ability to do a custom chart, which allows you to leverage the VividCharts chart in the library, but actually script your own data collection. So you can do some pretty exotic things with that. That's a more pro code part of the platform. But what we really want is for customers to help us understand what are the scenarios you're going to multiple tables and how do we provide those in out of the box ways. So that's a great question. And honestly, for the person that submitted it, we would love to hear more about what are the common scenarios you're wanting to do that in. And maybe there's a way to provide it out of the box. So great question there. The next one here, in slide 1 of the problem management report, how is the template affected if the action plan is lengthy? So that's a really good question. So in the editor, you saw, throughout the demonstration, some of the charts I would take and I would resize, based on, just to show the capabilities. But when we're looking at a use case, it varies organization to organization, the amount of data they put in different fields. So the beauty of the VividCharts editor is we have full control over the real estate we give a chart. We have the ability to not just do a one-page problem report, we could do a three-page problem report. So if you have a list view that's going to span far longer than a page, if you have a field that requires a lot more real estate, you can give it the real estate that it needs in the editor and just add an extra slide, right? So you can really use the platform to fit the data that your organization uses and the amount that it takes to tell the story. So really good question there on the problem one pager. Okay, and then the last question we have here, can you show a release and associated changes chart? So I don't have that demo ready to show today. However, it's definitely possible in a few different ways. So there's kind of two approaches you could do that, try and show that in a single chart. You could also take that summaries capability that we looked at with the problem, and maybe there's an opportunity to apply that to a release record and the associated data points like changes. So don't have an example I can demonstrate on that today, but that is a really good question. So we'll make a point to follow up with you, the individual that submitted that there, so we can show you a little bit more about what we could do on releases and the associated changes. So great question. Appreciate that. Definitely just want to kind of close out with a huge thank you for everybody who took the time to attend today. We showed a lot of platform capabilities. Again, everybody needs to go into their specific use cases when you see the platform. So coming out of today, we'll be following up with individuals who want to kind of double click on any of their specific use cases and processes, so we can help provide automation in those areas. So we really appreciate it, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.